absolutely feel like I am forgetting something. Hey, you guys, it is 2023. It's finally here. I feel like I've been waiting forever because I'm super excited to get started on that temperature blanket. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. It has been an extremely busy week. I mean, just insane. Between Christmas and my grandson's first birthday and just everything else that's been going on, it has been absolutely crazy. So here's what's been going on. I was chatting with another fellow creator here on YouTube, and we were talking about her cute little amigurumi, I think I said that right, animals and dolls that she makes. And I was telling her that I had tried it before, but I never finished that project because it hurt my hands so badly trying to do it so tight. And so we just got talking, and she was asking me a few questions like what kind of yarn was I using and you know, things like that. So I told her I did what the pattern called for, and it was cotton. She's like, oh no, just use regular old acrylic yarn, you know, and take my time, do a little bit at a time, don't try and rush through it. But I really wanted to make one of these. So I had bought a book months ago for beginners for making the little stuffies, and I think hers are just adorable. And I have a feeling that that is what is in this box because she sent me a package. It is my very first friend mail I have gotten off of YouTube, and I am super excited to sit here and open it and share it with you. So let's open this box and see what it is. Some good tape. Aww. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Is this not just the cutest penguin ever? Look at this gorgeous little hat. I love it. Thank you, Caroline. And her channel is Caroline for the Love of Crochet. And she shares a lot of her little, I call them stuffies, her little amigurumi creations. And that was so nice of you to send me one. That was super. Look at this. It's just adorable. And that's just regular acrylic yarn. It wasn't trying to deal with the cotton. I mean, normally I like working with cotton, but not for something like this. So I had bought this book. This book here, Crochet Cute Critters, by Sarah Zimmerman. And months ago. So after I was chatting with Caroline, I had decided, all right, I'm going to give it another shot. I'll use regular acrylic yarn and see if I can do anything with it. So I'm flipping through the book, and I chose this owl. So I wanted to do something that would be an easy first project, but I want to do something where they have little clothes like this with the scarf and the hat. So I'm going to have to look for another pattern. Now, one thing that I have always done, and it's not the smartest thing in the world to do, but I always do it. Whenever I pick up a book or a magazine, I always start in the back and flip through from the back. Now, had I started from the front, it actually has little hints and tips in it on how to do different things. But no, I can't do that. So I'm flipping through it from the back, and I settle on the owl, and I get started. Now, I didn't use the same colors that she has in the book because I just used what I had on hand. And I make the body. I'll show it to you here in a minute. But I make the body, and I get to the end, and there's a hole in the top that's about just big enough for my finger to fit into. And now then it says, stuff firmly. And I thought to myself, are you kidding? why wouldn't we be stuffing this before we get to this little teeny tiny hole? But whatever. So I sat there and I spent quite a long time, and I'm breaking the stuffing up and piecing it and putting it in there. Then the next piece to do is the head. So I get to making the head, and I get to the part where you're supposed to sew it closed, and it tells you to flatten it. I'll tell you exactly what it says. It says to fasten off, leaving a long tail. Pinch the top so it's closed flat. Use long tail to sew top edges together. The ears will automatically take shape when you sew the top closed. Then stuff firmly. Now, had I not had already learned my lesson from the body, I would have that thing completely sewn shut and then be trying to figure out, well, now how am I supposed to stuff it? Well, that's because I read from the back of the darn book and don't read all the hints and tips that are in the front of the book. You're supposed to stuff as you go. But no. Robin can't do that. Robin has to buck the system and go backwards. So, anyhow, I did take my time, and I was working on it in the evenings after I was completing some things. Like, I just did a video for a cat sweater or small dog sweater. And while I was working on that, I had my computer running, and there wasn't anything I wanted to watch on Netflix or on Hulu or anything like that, and sick of the news. So I had it on YouTube, and it was just doing autoplay. And sometimes YouTube comes up with the strangest things to send across your feed. It's like, why would they think this would be something I would be interested in? But obviously I was. So these videos from A&E about Hoarders came across, and it's just on autoplay. So the first one played, and I'm working, I'm not really watching, I'm kind of listening. So I hear them at the beginning of the show where the person kind of introduces themselves and says, what they are, like they're a retired fireman or a retired whatever. But it was amazing the amount of them that were retired healthcare workers or retired school teachers. And the school teacher thing caught my attention because I used to homeschool my youngest, and we did that from 3rd grade to 8th grade. And this room that I use for a guest room combo craft room, it's a shared space. I have cleaned it out and purged the stuff several times. It's like when we stopped doing the homeschool, and it killed me to do it. I had a large bookshelf full of books. We used to love to incorporate historical fiction in with our history lessons. So I cleaned out all the books, and they were just going to sit here. So I felt like if I donate them, somebody out there is going to get to read them and enjoy them. And then a lot of the curriculum and stuff I passed on to some homeschool groups so that, they can use it for free. And because that stuff is super, super expensive. For a math program, you could pay over $100 for it. And you're going to use it for 1 year. And then what else are you going to do with these books? So I purged the room once with that. And then we used it as the music room because Jenna and I were both taking piano lessons. And then she didn't want to do it anymore. She would rather play guitar than piano, which is fine. Not going to make her do something that she doesn't want to do, and then she's going to resent me for it. So at least something like that. There are things that, you got to make your kids do, and whether they resent you for it or not. So then we purged the room again. Now I have this area that's off to the side over here that actually leads into another room. That is my workspace for my Etsy store where I make pinback buttons. And that used to be loaded. But so I'm watching this Hoarder show, and I'm sitting in there with the computer on, and I'm working on making this cat sweater. And the school teacher thing catches my attention, and I look up and I'm watching it. I'm like, that's disgusting. All that trash. I mean, I can see it being piled with things that you've accumulated over the years, but empty food containers and drink containers and just plain garbage. I mean, some of it was really gross. There was no way I would have ever been able to clean it out. But I know it's a sickness in the head, and we all have that, I think, that thought every now and then, like, well, as soon as I get rid of it, I'm going to need it. And I know I'm like that with a lot of things. So probably back at the beginning of the year, because with the homeschooling, we did a lot of crafting. You know, it was a lot of hands-on stuff. So I had purged a bunch of the crafting supplies, gave them to my older daughter that loves stamping and paper crafting and stuff. I still had a lot of this stuff on the shelf, and I'm like, I need this shelf because I need space to put my yarn. Because I'm watching this show, and then I'm peeking around the corner, and I'm looking, and I'm going, oh no. I could see how easily this could get out of hand. So I cleaned off that shelf, went through all the remaining craft stuff, and I told Jenna, if you don't want it, it's going, because it's been sitting here for almost a year and we have not used it. The only thing we really like to use is for painting. So anything else that didn't have to do with painting is history. I've got a couple of boxes to go and donate to the thrift store, and maybe somebody else can get some use and enjoyment out of it, but it's not going to be in here. So I'm sure some of you have seen my Minecraft mob head blanket series. You know, it's kind of like granny squares, but they weren't really granny squares. But I made, gosh, I don't even remember how many now, several different Minecraft mobs, you know, just their faces, and then we pieced them together and made a blanket out of it. Well, I had all this yarn, partial used skeins that were left over from it, and they were just kind of in a box, and they were sitting on the floor, and it was like totally in my way, and I'm like, I can't deal with this anymore. So 2 years ago, Jenna had gotten me one of those cake winder things, and I'm like, well, let's try and use it. I mean, I tried it once before, and I didn't have it attached to a table, so it wasn't winding tight, so I just kind of stuck it back in the box and put it on the shelf. So I broke it out, and I was able to attach it and sit there and wind up all this yarn and make cakes out of it. Now, technically, you're supposed to use them with a Swift. Well, I don't have a Swift. And I don't want a Swift because I don't have room for it. So what I did to control my tension is I took one of these gloves. See how it's got the little rubber dots? Well, I put it on backwards so that the smooth side was, and I just held the yarn with one hand to keep the tension and cranked away. So then I have a nice little tote full of all these partial skeins that were left over from that project. And actually, that's what I had pulled from that to make the cat sweater. So I used one of these. These are handy. You don't have to have a Swift necessarily to do that. Well, one of the other things that I had to do, John had gotten me a new top, just right here. I can't touch it because it's still kind of wet, for my table that I was using to do videos. And because what was happening is my lighting at first was just a ring light, that thing right there. So the table couldn't be very wide. So it was like maybe a foot to 13 inches wide. And at first it was one of those console tables like you'd put behind the couch. Well, I had them cut it in half and then push the two pieces together, you know, take a piece out of the middle to make it shorter so it would fit in my little space. And then I just covered it with freezer paper to do the videos so you don't see this ugly seam down the middle. Well, with doing that, when I was doing a different video where I had to use multiple skeins of yarn at the same time, I kept dropping everything because I didn't have enough space. So for Christmas, he decided he was going to get me a new top. And because since then, I've found a different way to hold my camera. And Jenna has gotten me some, for Christmas, she got me some different type of lighting so I don't have to use that ring light. So I could expand my space. Well, what he did is he got me this really nice piece of wood. Ooh, it's starting to get dry. He got me this really nice piece of wood, and I'm like, well, it needs to be white, and I hate to paint it. I like the stained look, but it would have been a distracting background for videos. So I painted with some chalk paint, and just this morning I covered it with some polyurethane. So I also had that thing going on, which meant I had to rearrange the room for it to fit, because where it was before was by the only outlet in the room, and which was right by the door, and this would stick out too far. But this is going to be great to have work surface. So I got off on this tangent about all these things that I had to do. And I didn't show you my little critter I made. All right, don't pick on me. Don't laugh, because I think I did pretty good for my first Amigurumi stuffy. But here's my owl. Not the same colors as it called for in the book. The hardest part for me was stitching all the pieces together. And because it said stuff firmly, that's what I did. I stuffed firmly. And if I squeeze mine compared to Caroline's, hers is nice and soft, but firm. Mine is firm and hard. So I'm thinking maybe I did it wrong. But aren't they cute together? Some little crochet buddies to work with. But yeah, that's my first attempt. First attempt at, or I should say my first completed attempt at Amigurumi. So I want to do one where I can have clothes to dress it up and give it that anthropomorphic aspect about it. So yeah. Now what I did different is I couldn't get the eyes. They all kept coming out different sizes. So I did a double crochet instead of 3 rounds of the single crochet, which was hard to hold on to. And of course my coloring is different. Like she used a pumpkin orange. I used this bright yellow. And this is linen. She used oatmeal. And this is a Hobby Lobby color. I don't remember the name. But yeah, that's my first attempt at an Amigurumi crochet animal. So back to my rambling story. So the Hoarders show got me motivated, and I'm like, my space is not going to end up like that. There's no way. Now, obviously, well, not obviously because you don't know me, but it wouldn't be like full of all the garbage that it was full of, but just having boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. So I cleared off that shelf. I got 2 boxes ready for the thrift store, and I was able to organize my yarn over on those shelves. And then I have another shelf over in the corner that's like across from me, and that one I still have to do some arranging on that. But that gives me a place for my crochet books, my hooks, my all that kind of stuff. I'll have room for that. So this area is, get out of the way, this is going to be my filming area and my work area. I had to buy a power strip to be able to plug in my lighting. Not just for doing videos, but even for me to be able to see what I'm doing, I need lighting, you know, especially if you're working with dark colors, it's hard to see those stitches. So I have my lights and my power strip that need to be put on here. This is finally dry. I'm going to be able to have a place to do my work that has some room. Yay. And I can't treat this like every other horizontal surface, because I just remember being a kid and in my mother's house, every single horizontal surface in the house would get piled up. It was a dumping ground. Like, I absolutely cannot stand a coffee table because of my mother's house. And everybody would come in and their stuff would just get thrown on it, and that's where it would sit. Same way with her dining room table. Well, I have a dining room table because we need a place to sit and eat. but it was the coffee table, the dining room table, the end tables. If anything that had a horizontal surface, people would just use it as a dumping ground, and it just drives me crazy. So I try to limit the amount of horizontal surfaces in my house. Now, if it's a shelf up on the wall where you have decorative things, that's different. But tables, no. So I have to work hard not to fall into that habit of burying my horizontal surface. So this was the cat sweater, or small dog. It's got this nice ribbing. A little bit of, I guess you'd call that a little bit of mosaic work there, but it's all one solid color. And then because I picked this burnt orange, I think it looks like a burnt orange, but they just call it orange, out of my scrap bin, and it's Jenna's cat. She says, oh, make him look like a pumpkin and give it a green collar and cuffs and trim. So that's what we did. But yeah, so I put a video up on that. And this would fit a animal with a maximum of an 11-inch neck. So a small dog or a cat. And in my case, it's for a cat. Once again, Caroline, thank you so much for the stuffy. Here's my owl. They are best friends now. And when I get finished straightening out this craft area, they're going to be paired up on the shelf together. And I don't know, they might be in love. So thank you so much, Caroline. All right, so I guess you could say that my New Year's resolution, which I normally don't make because we can never stick to them. My New Year's resolution is not to pile up my workspace, keep track of my hook sizes so that I don't have so many unfinished projects. Probably it as far as crocheting goes. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening to me ramble today. And if you click right here, this is the next video that YouTube and I think you should be watching. Bye-bye.